So when you see these chords that like, B minor, and then B minor major 7 or D augmented to a D. It's like, you're probably like, what is that? And when you see stuff like that, you're probably gonna say to yourself, well, maybe it's that video I watched about the bearded guy with that barking dog in the background, where they're just moving one note chromatically through the chords. All right, welcome back to another episode of Guitar Fundamentals. Before we begin, make sure you share and subscribe to get further notifications of more videos that come out. I will say this, I have a new puppy. She's right over there. You might hear her barking or squeaking with her toy. I apologize, but she's amazing. All right, and so the concept of today's video is supposed to be quite simple, but as I pressed record, I said, I don't know if I can simplify this in the way I wanted to, but I'm gonna try my hardest. It's a simple concept. We see it all the time, and I wanna show you like how it works, what it looks like on chord charts and stuff like that, so you can do it on your own, all right? And so moving chords inside of moving melodies inside of chords is what I titled this, and I mean something like this. You hear this all the time, or 1 out of every 100 songs. Something like this. Right, something like that, or something like this. Those things, all right? So I want to talk about what they are, because when you see them on chord charts, it looks very frightening, but really it's very, very simple. So the first thing we're going to talk about is when we go from a 5 to a 1, or even some people, you might even say, some people might say a 1 to a 4. But let me show you the examples of this, like D to a G. In the key of G, D is the 5, G is the 1. In the key of D, D is the 1 and G is the 4. It's a crazy theory world that music is, but nonetheless, let's just talk about going from a D to a G, and then I'll do it in different examples. It is very common in this move where we're going from a D to a G, and I firmly believe it's more of a 5 to a 1 than 1 to a 4, but you gotta acknowledge it, right? You gotta acknowledge it. It could be both. Is that we take the root note of the chord and you flatten it in half step down to here. So this D becomes a D major 7. So when you're looking at a song that has this, you're going to see D, then D major 7. All we did is flatten that note down to that 2nd fret. And then we're going to flatten it one more while keeping the rest of the chord there, and it becomes a D7. So you're going to see this chromatic movement inside the chord of D to D major 7 to D7. I can hear my dog squeaking her toy right now. I don't know if you can. All right, and then that leads to your G chord. That's why I think of it as a 5 to a 1, because usually the 5 chord is a 7th chord that leads back to the 1 chord. All right, so anytime you have a 5 to a 1 and taking this root and just lowering it 1 half step at a time until it reaches the full dominant 7th chord and taking it to the 1 is a huge trick. You can hear this in this. This is an example I forgot where it's from, but this here is oh my God, "Home Sweet Home" by Motley Crue. Okay, enough of that. But there it was. There's your A. Here's my root note. Flatten this note to an A major 7. It just comes down. Everything stays the same, but that note comes to the 1st fret. I'm on the 1st fret, and I gotta lower it so it becomes an open string. We're at an A7. And now to D, which is home. Enter Vince Neil. All right, and so you can see that happening a lot. As a matter of fact, another example of it is in a great song called "Waste" by Fish, right? You have this C chord, and he puts the G on top, and look, there's that root note. To a C7. It's really, it's not a StichMethod video if I don't mess up, but that was embarrassing. Let's try that again, shall we? C, there's the root note. C major 7 to a C7, and then we're going to talk about further stuff there. But you can see that movement whenever we're going from a 5 to a 1. That was a C to an F, C to an F, 5 to 1. So before we talk about more of those 5 to 1s, I want to talk about another one that you're going to hear a lot, which was when we're moving a 6 to a 1. It's really interesting. And so if you look here, this is the Beatles do this a lot. If you have a D chord here and you're in the key of D, all right? D is the 1 chord, okay. And so we are gonna, what's the 6 of D? Well, it's B minor. Now to show you this, anytime you have a 6 going to a 1, you can use this. I'm gonna shorten this B minor up into here, right here, all right? And so this is a minor chord, excuse me. You're gonna see this 6 to a 1 with a B minor, same concept. You're gonna move the root note down 1 fret. And on the 3rd move, you're back to your 1 chord. Think about, oh my lovin', da 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 da, da 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 da. All right, so anytime you have a 6 to a 1 chord, you can use that. It's the same concept. The root note is moving down, but by the 3rd time, if you keep the rest of the chord the same on the 6th, it turns into the 1 chord. It's fascinating stuff. The last thing we're going to talk about, and hopefully this is making sense. I mean, I know I talk fast, so you can probably use the gear icon to slow things down, but I'm trying to keep it simple and poignant. Another thing you do is if you have a song that goes from, let's say, a D to a G, really interesting stuff. You can go back from the G to the D. You can create this D, G, D sequence with an even more chromatic movement. Chromatics, by the way, is 1 note next to each other. These are chromatic movements inside the chord. So just like the first one I showed you, you have the D, then we flatten this note, it becomes a D major 7. Flatten that note, becomes a D7 to a G. Now check this out. Now this note here, sorry, that's right, we went from D major 7 to D7 to a G. Now this is the major 3rd of the chord, the B here, where you're in the G land. Take this note and flatten it. All you gotta remember is you play it, you end up in the G, go to a G minor, and then go back to the D. So you can create this round from a 5 to a 1 and back from the 1 to the 5 by just, the whole thing was this descending sequence. That's the G minor note, I'll explain that, and then you go to this note, surprise, surprise, that's in the D. So you have D major 7, there's my dog barking, D7, to the G, there's that open B, we're going to play a G minor, which makes a B flat, and back to the D, and you end up here. Sequence using this chromatic movement inside of a chord. So when you see these chords that are like, you know, B minor, and then B minor major 7, or D augmented to a D, it's like, you're probably like, what is that? And when you see stuff like that, you probably want to say to yourself, maybe it's that video I watched about the bearded guy with that barking dog in the background, where they're just moving 1 note chromatically through the chords. You're going to see it all the time. You'll see D7, D major 7, D major 7, D7, G. And if you look up songs, I mean, they're everywhere. Motley Crue, The Beatles, Jerry Garcia Band stuff, all the stuff I listen to has it. So I just wanted to explain, if you have your own song that has a 5 to a 1, let's just say, what's a good 5 to a 1? Let's do a B, B to an E, right? Here's a B chord, check this out, right? This is a B bar chord. B major 7, I flat that root note. To a B7, down to the E. You can hear that movement. E minor. Now this, I'm completing it. You're going to flatten this note. E minor, back to B. And for fans of Fish, that's exactly what's happening in the song Waste. Oh, why? F minor, back to C. I can't believe, how easy is that for me? That should be so easy. Really? One day, I'm not going to reshoot the video. I got my point across. It's okay to mess up. Sometimes. All right, thank you so much for being here on another episode of Guitar Fundamentals. Please let me know if that made sense. You know, mention songs that have it. Just hey, this song in the comments has it, and you know, we can all check it out. But thank you again. And if you want to practice this stuff, you can practice with me on Patreon. Bye-bye.